Welcome, Nick. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. It's such a pleasure to always get to talk to you. And we're going to be exploring a feminine approach to marketing, which I am very excited about. To get started, would you like to explain how you got into this style of marketing?
Sure. Way back when I had my breakdown to breakthrough in my early teaching career, where I realized that I was not going to be able to just get another class and actually feed myself, I, made it my mission. I took every free webinar, all the things. And then I took an online business course. And although I got a lot out of that online business course, because and this was many years ago, I didn't have a blog, I didn't have a newsletter, I had a website, but it was awful, you know. So I really needed this course, and it was really, really helpful. And even though it was run by a woman, it still felt very kind of slick, bro marketing, hustle culture, baller was words that were, like it still felt really masculine. And to be frank, then I would have to then take all the gold from that course, because there was a lot of it, good information, and then sit with it and go, okay, how can I use this information in a way, and this skill set that I'm learning, in a way that doesn't feel gross and doesn't feel slimy and doesn't feel like I suddenly have to, you know, grow a penis in order to use these marketing techniques because it's all so masculine. And so that's kind of how it started. I started just with kind of looking at ways that I could take the gross out of it. And then eventually it evolved into, which is the name of my kind of signature course, Marketing for Heart. I was like, okay, how can I put some heart in here? And then it gradually, it struck me that it was like, oh, when I say heart, I'm actually meaning like this is like a feminine approach to marketing. So that's kind of how it hit. And then every time I hear a word, out there in the universe about marketing that is makes me kind of a little bit, or makes my skin crawl, I reframe it. Find a way to take whatever is the essence of what they're saying and put it in a more feminine, more heart-centered approach.
That's a really good practice to have, and just to test yourself as well. Like, how can I twitch this and explore the curiosity within that?
Yeah.
How would you describe, how does feminine approach differ from the masculine approach? What does it mean when you're talking about the feminine for anyone that's not sure?
Yeah. So I want to say, first of all, that I'm talking about feminine energy, not being female, because we all have masculine and feminine energy, or yin and yang in us, and we need both. So if I had only feminine marketing ideas, but no masculine energy behind it, well, then I wouldn't do anything with them. That's the driving force. But the heart or the soul of it is, or I often think of it like, I'm going to use a Chinese medicine reference, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I teach yin yoga and I studied Chinese medicine for a number of years. And one of the relationships with the organ pairs, the liver, for example, and the gallbladder are paired organs. And it is said that the liver is what's the yin organ, and the liver is the dreamer, the envisioner, the kind of the genius, behind all of it. It's the visionary. And then the gallbladder is the one that makes it so. The gallbladder is the one that's like, okay, I'm going to take all of your dreams and plans, and now I'm going to start implementing and making it happen. But what I find in our culture is that it's all gallbladder energy and not enough of the feminine, or the liver. And so that's kind of what I think of when I think of feminine energy or feminine marketing. I think of it as it's this kind of wiser, more grounded approach. I've got a whole bunch of kind of like swaps for words that we always hear, which might help kind of bring this home more. But I have to say also, I'm not at all afraid to some of these things in our marketing world, I can take and I can look at them and I can find the gold in it, and I can, change it. And some of it just needs to be tossed out. Like some of it I'm just like, no, I don't do that. Actually, that's gross. Overcoming objections would be a perfect example of that. I'm not overcoming people's objections. The analogy I often think of, with because I believe in consent and I believe that there's a right time and a right place and a right person. And so the analogy I'll often use with that is Every woman and probably some men have been in this position where you're meeting your friends perhaps at a lounge or a pub or something, and you're there first. And so you're sitting having your drink waiting for your friends, and somebody rolls up on you and is like, hey, how's it going? You know, what are you doing? What's your name? Tell me about yourself, blah, blah, blah. And, you kind of politely are just like, just waiting for my friends. I'm good. Thanks. Not interested. And then the person just keeps going and keeps going. And, if you just gave me a shot, why don't you let me take you out? Why don't you let me buy me? You see what I'm saying with this? This is what overcoming objection feels like in marketing. So if somebody is objecting to your services, it's because one of three things is happening. You haven't communicated what you do and who you serve well enough for them to know right away whether it's a fit or not, in which case you got to go back to your marketing material. It's not a fit for them. You're not the person. Maybe they're better off with somebody else, or it's not the right time. But in any of those, this kind of heavy, pushy, overcoming objections, kind of sleazoid approach of like, let me talk you into why my program is so perfect for you, it's not going to work. Or if it does work, you're going to know that you have people in your program who didn't actually consent to being there. So it's gross. So that's the one that it's like, I didn't like tweak overcoming objections. I just don't overcome objections. It's like, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit.
Yeah, it's one thing to like answer questions and then a completely different thing to like overcome the objections. That reminds me of when I was like 18 and I was working in a call center, and it's so like pushy marketing, and I was selling insurance, and my manager came and he was like, look, you could have got this one. And like the guy just got to a point, like I did the thing, the spiel, went through the questions. And there was a point where I was like, yeah, he doesn't really need it. Like, or he's not interested. So I let it go, and he was like, you could have done it. Like, you could have got it. And I just remember feeling in that moment, like, if that's what you require of me, like he was genuinely interested and genuinely asked a bunch of questions, and genuinely it didn't seem like a good fit for him or the right time. And I was like, I can't do that. That's not what I'm going to be doing. And then you do get to a point where you're just like, they're just saying yes to get away from it because they don't want to like have this conversation anymore. How much do I have to pay you to get out of this conversation?
Either that or they hang up on you, one or the other, and neither's good. We don't want either of those. So I would say that, a lot of these I'll share with you are kind of reframes, but that there's just some things I just don't do. I'm just like, no. If I have to overcome objections and be pushy and gross and aggressive to get people in my programs, then I need to seriously rethink my values and who I am in this world, So yeah, I started just looking at the words and thinking, okay, if I don't want that, because I think, complaining about what you don't want or what you don't like is helpful initially because it creates a spark, right? But otherwise, if you just keep going with that, well, now you're not replacing it with anything. You're just complaining all the time. So I use these words as like, when I would complain about them, I'd be like, okay, but what do I want instead? So I'll give you some of those if you want.
Yeah. But
okay. So hustle, right? We're always hearing about hustle. We got to hustle. I actually think slow marketing and relationship building is much more feminine than hustling. Acknowledging that it takes time and it takes connection, especially in things like yoga, to build that heartfelt resonance with people, and that they need to get to know you, So I don't hustle. Or as they often say in Buddhist circles, drop by drop, the bucket fills. So instead of like pushing, hustling, grabbing the garden hose and like overfilling the bucket, I'm just going to keep adding to it, until the relationship is there. I also think, as yoga professionals, we're talking about hustling. Don't we always tell our students to rest? Aren't we telling our students that it's okay to rest? It's okay to take time for yourself, take some self-care. And yet we're like out there hustling, so we have to put our money where our mouth is a little bit there. And then I like to think of building my business instead of hustling all the time, because there are times where you do have to be a little bit more masculine. You have to push a little bit more. But I think of it as seasonal, which is a much more feminine approach as well. So again, I'll go back to Chinese medicine, so for example, in the summer is a really extroverted time, a really young time. It's a great time to be networking. making connections, things like that. In the fall is actually the season of letting go. So that's a really good time to look at your business and go, what didn't work here? Not either for my heart or just like financially, like what isn't working, pull out the things that aren't working, like get rid of the dead leaves kind of thing, and then get ready. And then winter is our time of reflection. This is the most yin time of the year, the most feminine time of the year. And this is where we want to pull out our journals and really go deep. Why are you doing what you're doing? What are your dreams? What are that's the time to dive deep. And then the spring is this envisioning time and this seed planting time, right? So, this is where you're like, okay, I'm clear. I've cleared space in the fall. I've done the inner work in the winter to know what it is that I want to build. And now in the spring, now we be hustling. Now we be taking these visions and dreams and we're like taking action, right? Like that gallbladder energy of like marching forward with these things and planting the seeds and growth. So I like to think of my business in those seasons. And I feel like that's a far more earth friendly and feminine approach to marketing. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not promoting my stuff all year. It's not like I just sit resting on my laurels all winter and don't talk about my offers, but it just means that I'm taking some of the pressure off, and it's giving me the time and the clarity as well. Because sometimes we get so caught up in the running of our business that we don't ever take the time to slow down and go, wait, what's not working? What do I actually want? Why am I even doing this? Why did I start this crazy business in the first place? So a seasonal business phase instead of a constant hustle allows for that time for you to really, I think, be more effective actually, because you've had the rest.
And then you haven't like just started adding things. Like you said, you've got things on your list that you're just like doing all the time and you're just doing them because you have to be doing them and that's the business and it keeps adding things on top of it. And then you can actually take a pause and reflect. That's really important. And then there's seasons within those seasons because we're feminine.
Mm-hmm.
We can go with the moon cycle. We can go with our own cycles as well. I
Totally.
definitely found a huge difference in the way I was functioning a few years ago. I'm not cycling at the moment because I'm breastfeeding, but when I would follow, like, there's certain parts of my cycle that I just can't. And there's certain
Yeah.
parts where I'm full of energy. So that's the time to like start stuff and go talk to stuff and
Yes.
create stuff. And then the other periods, it's time for maybe planning and reflecting and or just nourishing
Yeah.
and
The time
following
in
my
your
own
cycle where
cycle made such a massive difference.
huge, yes. And when you're following your own cycle, and on those days, like you said, where you just can't, those are great days to do stupid, silly, menial stuff that needs to be done, like
Mm,
cleaning out your inbox, cleaning your desktop, like the stuff that is always on the to-do list but never gets done. Those
yeah.
days where you're brain dead and you just want to like sit with your hot cocoa, those are days to delete, delete, things like that. Yeah.
Mm.
Another one is grind, right? People are always grinding. I don't know why anybody would want to grind personally. It's not even a word that, it's not something I want to do. Rise and grind.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I like to rise slowly in a gentle way. And so I think when you are filled with purpose, then that's a more feminine approach to grinding, right? When what wakes you up, what gets you going in the morning is actually your purpose in life. It's your why. That's a bigger draw to me. Crushing it, there's another example. Why are we so violent? Why are we grinding and crushing everything, So rather than crushing it, I like to think about thriving. Leveling up, this is another one. I got to level up, And some people think they have to keep leveling up forever in their business. That's madness. But I like to think of it as, instead of leveling up, am I able to increase my contribution? As opposed to just this, like video game. Okay, now I'm on the next level. Well, now what? What's the point of leveling up?
Yeah.
Making the sale versus, is there resonance and inviting people to the party? So, for example, we don't live near each other. If we did, I would invite you over to a party, although I don't party, but you know what I mean.
It's a
I
tea
would,
party. They count.
yeah, we can hang out with cats and tea. Exactly. Talk about yoga.
Yeah.
But to me, when you've spent the time with your clients, letting them get to know you, and then when you do have an offer, it's just, you're literally saying, hey, I have this thing, I think you might like it, it might be helpful, check it out. If it feels right, if it resonates, or as my marketing coach always says, if it feels like a fit, then you should come. Right. So if I had said that to you, it's like, hey, I'm having a couple other yoga teachers over Saturday afternoon. We're going to play some board games and probably mostly talk about yoga and drink tea and hang out with my cats. If it sounds like something you'd like, you
I
should
am
come.
there.
Right. But that's so different than me, like, trying to like make a sale. Right. It's open armed, it's invitational, and it's resonant.
Mhm.
Another one, ROI. Ugh, I don't like that word. So rather than a return on investment, for those of you who don't speak business speak, I like to think of this as a circular economy and a marketplace. So when I'm getting return on my investment, if we use traditional marketing speak, I'm working in a circular economy. So that means that I now have the money to, example, pay another person to do some contracting for me, or I now have the money to go to my local coffee shop and support my local mom and pop coffee shop because of the money I've brought in. I can now buy local organic cotton leggings that were made sweatshop free because, do you know what I mean? So I'm always looking at it as rather than like this black and white, what is the return on my investment? It's how does bringing this in allow me to invest in this circular economy and increase kind of the local marketplace? Because, one thing that I really wish yoga teachers would understand, because there's so many money blocks and money issues with yoga teachers about wanting to make more money. And, whether we like it or not, we're voting with our dollar every day. Every purchase you make says, I value this or I don't value this. And most of us are not conscious about that unless this has become part of our practice, which it has for me. And when you make more money, then you're able to support the things you believe in, right? If you're not making money because you're afraid of money, or you think money's gross or money's evil or whatever it is, then you can't buy organic cotton leggings made by your local female entrepreneur, because you got to just buy what you can afford at Costco or wherever. And so this is why I think of this as like this circular economy. The more money I make, the more I can then invest in my community, in the businesses that I believe in the causes that I believe in the little local businesses, in the non-for-profits that I believe in, et cetera, et cetera. So I like to think of it as like a circular economy. It's like when I make more, we all make more, right? Hacking, that's another good one. We're always hacking at things in business. Have you noticed this? We're hacking, hacking, versus working smarter and using your intuition. So I'm not at all above the energy behind a hack, meaning like, can we save some time and energy on this? Yes, please, let's do that. So I'm all for working smarter, not harder, but also I need to do that from a place of my own intuition and slowing down. And then that's where it comes from, as opposed to me just kind of randomly, grabbing all these hacks. Productivity, it's another one. When we live in, as most of us listening to this do, kind of I'm not anti-capitalist, but we live in a predatory capitalist society. It's gone way beyond, I think, its original intentions. And when we live in a society like that, we can get so obsessed with productivity. How much am I producing? How much did I get done today? Checking things off the to-do list and giving ourselves a pat on the back. And I think that the energy behind that is just so masculine again and linear. Whereas I like to think of it as, what am I creating in the world? What am I creating? What am I putting out there as like my creations, as opposed to like, what am I producing? It's not an assembly line, it's a craftsperson. Leveling up, that's another one. I like to think of it as learning to fly.
It's cute.
Yeah. Making the sale. We talked about this one a little bit already, but versus resonance. Like, is this a good fit? I have turned clients away, private clients, because I know someone who's way better to serve them than me. So yeah, I could just be like, yeah, I'm a yoga therapist. Here's one example. I had a woman referred to me by a colleague who just knew I was a yoga therapist, but didn't realize that there's like specialties within yoga therapy. And this woman was a cancer survivor. She survived breast cancer. She was done her treatment. She was wanting to get into yoga and get back into the world. The woman was also an elder to me by probably about 15, 20 years. And so I could have been like, okay, I took some stuff on cancer. Let me pull out my manuals and reread that. Or I could refer her, which is what I did, to a colleague of mine who is also a breast cancer survivor and a yoga therapist and in the same demographic and age bracket, which makes way more sense, right? So when we are obsessed with making a sale, we're not taking that step back to go, wait a minute, who is best served here? Am I the best person to serve this person? If not, can I gleefully refer them on to someone else, knowing that that's going to come back when somebody has a client that maybe is perfect for me, or that client is like, oh, thank you for referring me to somebody. What is it that you specialize in? So rather than making the sale, is it a fit? Does it resonate? Is that heart connection there?
Yeah, and I like the idea that you're not thinking about it as like, oh, I've lost that client or I've lost that sale. Changing that to like, it will come back around again. Because, like you said, the
Yes.
person that you helped was like, wow, she was really helpful. So you're now in their mind, and also the teacher potentially that you referred them to. So it's just like a pay it forward kind of thing, effectively, in that circular economy once again.
Yeah. And then another one on ROI is my focus is, am I prosperous enough to be making a heartfelt contribution to the world around me? That's my goal. Quarterly projections versus seasonal wisdom. We talked already a little bit about the wisdom of the season. So rather than going, this is my projection for each quarter, knowing that some seasons might be higher. And that's because in the other seasons, you're planting the seeds and you're doing the work of figuring this out. This one is a little bit controversial, so I'll leave that one till the last one. A growth mindset. It's another one I don't love. I don't think that we should always want to be growing, 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 growing. More is not better. It's just more. And I think that there has to be, the feminine wisdom sits with it and goes, what do I need to be able to sustain myself comfortably and feel solid and sovereign, and to be able to contribute to my community? And that is enough. Just look at our planet. It's a perfect example of growth mindset, right? More, 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 more. Let's just extract, let's just build, let's expand, without ever stopping to go, actually, do I have enough? Like, maybe I'm good here. Or maybe if I do earn more, it's because I want to be able to, support more, invest more and save more, and, help people more. And then the other one that I often will hear people talk about is discovery calls. And I would like to just lovingly call us out on this, that 90% of the time when people say discovery call, what they actually mean is sales call. They're using the word discovery call, but actually that person's going to get on the phone with you and it's going to be a hard sell. And you're going to be overcoming objections, and you're going to be attached to whether or not that person signs up to your program or your class or whatever. So I just don't do them at all. I believe in putting enough valuable content out there regularly, again, drop by drop, the bucket fills, so that people can really see who I am, what I stand for, what I believe, and what it might be like to work with me. And then they just know without me having to do a discovery call. They get an email and they're like, what? I've done like 4 or 5 of her free videos. You know what? I do want to sign up for that registered series, because I've had a chance, they've had a chance to get to know me. So I don't have to do a discovery call where I convince them that I am the one who can solve all their problems, which again feels gross and feels like that overcoming objection energy. And rather, I've given them enough content that they can consume, they can look at in their own time. Again, the slow marketing, and then they can decide, is this for me or is this not for me? Now, I'll always answer questions, of course, if people have questions. But I would say that in the yoga industry, we've unfortunately adopted some of the things just from the overarching, sort of online marketing business, and discovery calls, which are just disguised as sales calls, is one of those. Now, if you are able to do a true discovery call where you are really not attached to whether or not that person signs up for your offer, and you are just trying to find out, is this a good fit? And you're actually willing to say to that person, you know what, actually, I don't think my program is what you need. I'm going to refer you here. That would be a true discovery call, right? But I think that unfortunately, the languaging around that usually means sales call.
Yeah, I didn't do well with my web design for a few of those because my I do a true discovery call. And half the time I will probably talk you out of it. It didn't always benefit me, but people are very grateful for it. The other one is applications in that as well. I've been tricked by that from someone where you apply and they review it
Oh,
and then they basically just say yes. And I was like, I remember it was a course and I was like, I'm not sure I'm a quite right situation for this right now. Are you sure this will work for me? And they were like, yeah, it would be great, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I got in and it was really expensive, I was like, I don't have the time and space because I was like, I work full time. Do I have time for this? And I got in it and I did not have the time for it. And I end up losing heaps of money on that course. So that's another one that ties, same with that discovery call kind of thing. To,
mm-hmm.
to even
I
if we're
tell
not doing it,
people,
watch out for it.
yeah, I tell people all the time if my teacher training's not right for them.
Mm,
It's like I know what I offer and what I don't. And so if they ask me a question and I'm like, no, it doesn't cover that, like I'll say, actually, but you might want to look at this one instead. Or I've had people reach out and ask about, like, I've told people they don't have enough time. They
mm,
reach out and they're like, I really want to take your course this spring. Well, here is an example, but I'm an accountant and it's tax season. And I just replied with, no, no, I will see you in the fall.
yeah.
Like, you do not want to take on, because my course actually has homework assignments and then it's got a lot of optional homework. Listen to this podcast review, or here's a video if you want to. So it's like, no, you need time in your schedule to be
Mm,
able to consume the material that I'm giving you and then also enjoy all the bonus resources and work on assignments. Same with, I had another woman whose child had been dealing with some serious health stuff. So she was off work because she was doing more caregiving and was like, I think now might be the time to take this course. I was like, oh, no, it's not.
mm,
No, it is definitely not. Like, you need to worry about your daughter and yourself and your own self-care. You do not need to be adding another thing into your life right now in this stressful situation. So a true discovery call would also tell people it's not a fit, or it's not a fit now. Or I can recommend someone better for this, because I don't do that.
yeah, it was for
Sign
a
up for the
web design
course.
one. And I'm pretty sure she just accepted everyone based on what, like, after I talked to her. And then once I got in, I was like, I'm not a fit for this. And it would have been very clear that I wasn't a fit for this based on the amount of time I had going into it.
Yeah.
And I did end up not paying the full amount because I got to a point, because I also didn't realize it was only 6 months and you didn't have ongoing access to anything. So I couldn't do it on a slower pace. And I was like, dude, like I've just lost heaps of money. I haven't got anything out of this. Like I got too overwhelmed with, and she shouldn't have accepted me.
Yeah. She
And I'm
should have
pretty
said
sure
maybe,
that's her
maybe,
funnel. Yeah.
maybe not now.
Yeah. So yeah, watch out for
Mm.
that one for anyone
Watch out
that
for discovery calls and application forms that are
applications,
actually
yeah.
just disguised as
Uh,
discovery
yeah.
emails.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess it feels official, like you're applying for something, and then it's like, yay, I got in. That's so exciting. Like, I can't believe I got chosen. And then you do it, but I'm pretty sure everyone just got chosen. That was just part of the thing. I mean, maybe if there was someone that she's like, really no, I'm not sure, but that's the
Yeah.
impression I got.
Seems like a lot of work on her part too. Like, why not just have a really damn good sales letter that with a video that says,
I
hey, this is
mean,
not for you if, this is
if
for
you're
you
not
if.
reading the applications, it's
Oh, I
maybe
guess.
not.
Right. Of course. I'm thinking like someone who would actually read all the forms. Never
Yeah.
mind. Yes. Oh, boy. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you list all of those as well, because I think they're all words that I'm sure everyone listening, if you've been any second in just like marketing, learning marketing, entrepreneurial, you heard all of those all the time. And how much aggression there actually is when you like, I didn't even think of hacking like that as well before, but because there's like biohacking and
Mm-hmm.
all of the things. And like hacking is very like aggressive kind of thing. And yeah,
Another
it's
one you'll see on
interesting.
YouTube when people, and it's usually, that whole bro culture. It's like, you log on and they're encouraging you to smash the like button. I'm like, why am I smashing the like button? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, make sure you smash that like button, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'm like, eesh. How about just like,
I just click
hey,
it.
thank you for coming. If you're enjoying this content, I'd be grateful if you subscribe.
Yeah. Or even
Or
hit the
thank you
like
to,
button, actually. I've
Yes,
never
it,
found
fix
that
in.
too offensive, but it is when you lump that in with all of the others.
Yeah, it's so like violent
It's why,
language, you know?
yeah,
Or say something like, thank you so much to all of those of you who have subscribed. It really means a lot.
yeah,
Right? It's the same thing. You're drawing attention to the fact that you would like people to subscribe if the content is a good fit for them, not just to smash the like button because, you're going to get random, people that watch one of your videos and now, they've subscribed and smashed the like button. So now they're going to see all your content and they're not even a good fit for you anyway. So
mm,
yeah, there's so many. And the ones that I have been bad with and that I still have to watch with is hustle and productivity. Those are my two that I kind of have to like, hang on. Are we being
yeah.
productive or are we creating meaningful change in the world, Nyk? Let's reframe that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's one that
Yeah.
I'd have to work on as well. Are you okay if we go over a little bit just to get through? Yeah, cool.
Totally.
Awesome. I wanted to ask as well because I can see how if you lean too far into the yin, the feminine, you can then maybe end up a little bit too passive
Yeah.
with how you're describing. How do you, and you mentioned earlier, like it is, we all have the yin and the yang, the masculine, the feminine, it is a balance. How do we make sure that we're still staying confident in how we're expressing our offers and I guess tying into that masculine where we need it? Rather than just turning into like this too passive, like, oh, if you want, here's a thing. You know what I mean? Like too passive
Yeah.
language.
Well, I'm much more a fan of talking about something that you offer all the time, casually. And then when something's open, that's when you have to pull your masculine out a little bit and you have to schedule out. I find for me, if I can schedule out the time that I work on things, so blocking time and things like that, but also on the time that I might be promoting it, like, in my calendar, be like, oh, right, I have this thing coming up in 2 months. Now would be a good time to start talking about it on my email, even though I talk about these things all the time. This is just how I speak about the world and what I do and who I help. But then there will, of course, be times where you're going to amplify that a little bit. And I like that word amplify. Um, it's like I'm gonna take what I've been saying quietly all this time, and now I'm gonna grab a megaphone and go, hello there, friends. If you've been enjoying this, now's the time. If you've been enjoying it, to check it out. Yeah. So just amplifying it at the time that things are registered. Now, this is a bit tricky for teachers that are still teaching drop-in classes because that where they're going to be always feeling like they need to amplify. So I'm sure you can put our previous episode in the show notes about that, about why drop-in classes are not so good for business. But yeah, I think of it as, I'm always, for example, I'm always talking about and posting about my yin training, but it only runs twice a year. But I don't just wait until twice a year. I'm always saying on my podcast, like, hey, if this podcast resonates with you, if you love this material, if you've been getting aha moments from this, like get on the wait list. So I'm saying that in pretty much every episode or every second episode. And then when registrations open, I'm going to open it first to the wait list because that's the whole point of having a wait list is that they get the dibs first. And then I'm going to start, posting it on social media and in the groups and things like that. But I'm still talking about it the whole time, right? Like drop by drop, the bucket fills. And if we can think of this kind of slow, steady, kind of drop by drop, then we also don't feel as stressed when it is time to, when something is launching or, when now we're like, okay, now it's time to sign up for the things. We won't feel as stressed about it. And we also won't feel the need to be as pushy because we have been talking about it the whole time. It's not like you're taking a totally cold audience who has no idea what you do and who you do it for. And then all of a sudden you're like, let me slam all this information into you in like 5 emails. It's like it's been trickling through the whole time. It's been the little babbling brook of like, this is what I do. This is who I help. Oh, by the way, now this is open for you. So yeah, there is a time where you do have to amplify, step it up a little bit, slightly get into your masculine, like when things are actually open to register. And before that, I think is the feminine time where you're just like talking about it slowly, trickling it in, letting people know what you're up to, referring to it, and encouraging people to get on your email list so that when things open, they'll know about it.
Yeah. There's two main things I take out of that. One of them is actually talking about your offers, which I think a lot of is a trap people forget to do, and always including a call to action, like making sure that call to
Mm-hmm.
action is always present somewhere when you are creating these offers to keep that masculine, like hello, and in an invitational way.
That I am actually not great at is the call to action, the CTA. Especially on things like in my email, I am, but like on social media and stuff, it's like I often will forget to just invite them to, even if it's just something like, hey, if this resonated with you, like the post or share it with a friend. It's like sometimes I forget that like there needs to be a finisher there. So that's a good
Mm.
reminder.
Yeah, I had a client a couple years ago and we had that conversation. I did like sort of marketing stuff for her and she was like, oh, I'm not getting people like in the membership. And I was like, how often do you invite them to join? And she was like, because she was very good at emailing. Like she had an email out that was full of value every week. And she was like, oh, I don't really do that. And I was like, well, maybe can we start doing that and
Mm-hmm.
then see
It
how
can be
we
as simple
go?
as like for example, it could be a PS even. It doesn't need to be
Mhm.
heavy. Like, so for example, when I'm registering for my semester of classes, which I'm doing right now, I can put a little PS at the bottom that says, hey, if Zoom classes aren't for you, did you know I have an on-demand video library? It's
Yeah.
like it's just a little drop, right? It's just a little,
One that I've
you know.
seen, which is she's a web designer, but I follow her and I want to implement this as well because I'm not always great at that. And it also just takes out you having to do it every week, is put a section at the bottom of your emails that's basically exactly the same every time. It's like templated and it just has your offers like if you're interested in this thing, like here's the
Mm-hmm,
podcast,
mm-hmm,
here's that. And it's effectively a
mm-hmm.
PS and it's in every single email. So it's not pushy or salesy, but it's just like, remember, here are all of the things I have. Like, and when you're ready, effectively, you're just being slowly, like you said, it's trickling in slowly, that you're being exposed to it. And then eventually, one day when the time is right, you might be like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Do
Been
that in the
meaning to
show
click.
notes of the podcast. I have like a link for everything so that, want to join me on Zoom? Here's the link. Want my on demand video library? Here's the link. Want to see
Yeah.
all the episodes at a glance? Here's the link. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Just
smart.
kind of reminding people of what you're up to. And then also, I think part of this drop by drop, the bucket fills is, and this is where niching comes in and really understanding your people and what they're struggling with, is that your content all the time, whether it's on social or your newsletter or whatever it is, should be in service of who you want to serve and what you want to help them with. So just kind of randomly like, oh, here I just posed this asana tutorial of, I don't know, some little warrior flow or something on Instagram. It's like, well, like what are the benefits of that? Like how does that help your people? What is the point of that, content? So when you're also being really intentional with your content, that also helps so that again it's that trickle effect, that eventually that little babbling brook has to eventually merge with the ocean, but like along the way it's trickling. So an example of that might be, um, I work with people mostly with back pain and anxiety, and so rather than just randomly posting something, if I wanted to do a video on Instagram, why wouldn't I post like a quick 5-minute thing that you can do for anxiety?
Mm.
That's a drop that's filling the bucket. I'm not just randomly choosing any breath technique to share, right? I'm going to choose the like 5 that I know that are the most helpful for folks with anxiety, with the caveat, of course, that there's no one size fits everybody. This is why I share 5 of them, because this one might work for you and not for you, you know, or things like that. Like when you're sharing content, be intentional with it. Now, I do share things that have absolutely nothing to do with my bottom line, but have everything to do with who I am as a person and what I value in the world. Like one of those is a gratitude post every week. I share a little graphic that just says, pause your scroll, put your hands on your heart, 3 things you're grateful for. Let me know in the comments, because gratitude practice is a huge part of my life. It's also part of my classes. We do it at the beginning of every class. And so like that graphic isn't like designed to like, increase my registration in my classes, but it is a conscious and deliberate, intentional invitation for people to slow down and to practice gratitude, which they will get in my classes. So it's it's on brand, even though it's not there's no real call to action other than put your hands on your heart and let me know what you're grateful for. So yeah, not all calls to action have to be sign up for my email list, although most of us do not do that one enough, myself included,
Yeah,
where we're on
same.
social going, hey, did you know that actually the real party is happening over here on my email list?
I'm bad at that as
Yeah.
well. I need
Yes.
to
Yeah.
like add more in my podcast show notes and leverage that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
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 Um,
I'm good doing it with my teacher stuff, but with the general public, I'm not as good at saying, oh, by the way, you get some free videos and awesome things when you join my email list.
yeah.
Yeah.
I actually put way more work over there. You'll actually get
Yeah.
to know me a lot better.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah. I like that you brought up the gratitude example though, because it is still it demonstrates how you talked about the little babbling stream still, and it's still very on brand, and it's just like that's what you'll be getting, and anyone that's going to resonate with that practice that you share every week, they're going to resonate more with the classes anyway. So it's still adding to that ocean and building up to that ocean as well.
Yeah. It's kind of like a getting to know you post, it's like they're
Hmm.
getting to know a bit more about me and what's important to me and my classes and my life and my practice. And so they're either going to resonate with it or they're not, right?
Do you have any advice for anyone that maybe I would imagine this is more applicable for people that are in a job or a situation that they really like aren't enjoying and they just really want to be full-time yoga teacher. They want this to be this whole thing. They like the idea of this feminine marketing, but it is a slower process, which I think is important for everyone to recognize because we've had this hustle in 3 months' time. You'll be like a millionaire if you do that shoved down our throats on social media for years now. I am seeing a little bit of a twist in that, I think, especially this year, of people being like, no, actually, to build something real, it takes a lot of time. But what advice would you have for someone that's sort of struggling with that, that wants things to happen a bit faster and wants to see progress in their business while still trying to adopt a slower approach and accepting that slower approach?
Figure out your niche. When you try to talk to everyone, you're talking to no one. And that is slow. It's going to take you so long to find your people if you're trying to talk to everyone. But if while you've got your day job, and I work with a lot of teachers in this situation, by the way, who are like, I really love yoga. I'd love to do this full time, and I have bills to pay. How do I get from here to here? So start with your niche. It is so much easier to build quicker when you're really clear on who you're speaking to, because now your website copy speaks directly to them. They're more likely to get on your email list because they're going to read your website copy and go, oh my God, get out of my brain. How did you know? Right? It's going to be easier for you to figure out, who do I network with? So, for example, let's just use my back pain niche, right? So, if I know that I work with folks with back pain, well, then it's easier for me to figure out who else helps people with back pain that isn't a yoga teacher that I could now be networking with. But if I'm not specific, how do I know? I help women that are stressed. So 51% of the population is who you help, because I think most women are stressed, so when you can get really specific, it makes it so much easier. Let's just say, for example, one of your business building things might be to do a public talk, like at a library or at a conference. Well, how do you know which ones? Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels. So actually niching, even though it's hard in the beginning, I'm not going to lie, it is not easy. It takes time, and and I think it takes help, and I'm happy to help people with that. I have a video for free when you sign up for my newsletter, but also if you need after that a little more hand holding, I do this all the time. But when you figure out who you're meant to serve and what you're helping them with, now you know how to grab that and take some of that masculine energy, right? And like, okay, now here's where I'm going to focus. I'm going to, talk to my example might be my chiropractor. I'll use a client example too. I worked with a yoga teacher who was really struggling with her niche. Meanwhile, she was a triathlete, and I was the one who was like, knock, knock. Have you considered maybe yoga for triathletes? Just saying. I mean, you know how to do it. You work with these people all the time. You hang out with them on the weekends. like what, that seems like a pretty resonant niche. Never occurred to her. But then the great thing was, then when she was like, yes, okay, yoga for triathletes, well, now she knows where to promote herself, right? At all the triathlete events, she goes to her run stores. One of the tactics that I got her to do was to contact all the local running stores and say, hey, do you need content for your newsletter? Dear yoga teacher, are you listening? Everybody wants content for their newsletter. And so if you've got a little video, even if it's just something you did on Instagram, a 5-minute stretch, I said, you got a 5-minute, this is what I do after I go for a big run, or the week after a triathlon, this is my self-care, whatever it is, right? Now you give that little content you've already created. It's just sitting there on Instagram. No one's looking at it anyway. And you take it very specifically to where your people live. That's how we build quickly. We have to get super specific and super clear, and we have to push away all the noise and the generalizations and the vagueness of like, I'm just going to share this hamstring stretch on Instagram. Why do I want to share my hamstrings? Whereas imagine if she comes in at, hey, fellow triathletes, how we're not very good at stretching, blah, blah, blah. Here's my 5-minute routine that I do after a run. Do you see how much more clear that is? She knows exactly who she's talking to. She's speaking their language. Then she can take that content and repurpose it in someone else's newsletter, maybe many newsletters, and that's how you build quickly, more quickly. It still is going to be slow, because slow-ish, because in order to be authentic, it has to have, and hard, it has to be slow, but it won't be as slow. Sort of like the difference between, I'm going to use a restaurant analogy, fine dining, where you've got your 7 or 8 courses. This is what can happen if you're not clear. You're going to be there for 2.5 hours eating that meal. It's wonderful. But if you're like, I got a movie to get to, that's not where you're going to go. Maybe you want to go somewhere like, I'm thinking of a local place we have here. That's poke. The poke translate to everyone. It's like, a bowl. It's a Hawaiian thing, and you get to choose all the stuff that goes in your bowl. Do you want it on rice? Do you want it on greens? It's like, it's super healthy, super yummy, but it's also quicker, right? But it's not fast food. It's not gross and, greasy like fast food, where you're just like, you're over masculine and you're like, do this. That would be like the fast food. I think poke is a good analogy. It's like you can be poke if you niche. You don't have to worry about being slimy and gross and trying to get everybody, but you also don't have to have it be so long and drawn out that you're like 10 years later, you're like, what was I doing with this business thing again? Or you can see people coming in. And that also is going to fill your cup more when you are working with people that you really resonate with and you are really uniquely suited to serve, and you can see how much of a difference your teaching and the yoga is making in their lives. I mean, that's what's going to fill your cup, right? So that you can keep going with all of this stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good example to try and nail your niche, and I'll leave a link for Nyk's niching workshop. It's really, really valuable for anyone that is stuck on that as well. All right. We have rapid fire question end. So,
Okay.
what is one marketing strategy that has worked better than you expected?
Okay, friends, are you ready for this? Posters.
Mm, nice.
Not online, not social media, not my email list, hanging posters regularly, all the time, not just when you have an event. So, again, if you're niched, right, your poster is going to be describing your business and who you like to work with. Your website is on there. You're out with your friends for lunch. You go find that bulletin board, you hang a poster. Stick some well-designed colored posters that are niched in your bag with your tape and your tacks, and always have that little book bag in your car or with you if you're out and about postering. 90% of the people that come to me that are new either came of referral, so a friend referring, or they saw my poster.
Nice.
And that's
Posters have worked for me as well.
dirt cheap advertising.
Yep.
Now, if you only work online, you can still poster. When the pandemic hit, I was like, wow, okay, all the bulletin boards were empty because no one was having any events. And I was like, I am going to have everyone's eyes on my posters now because there's no other posters. And all I did on the bottom of my poster was change it to say online and in person, or online classes. That was it. So you're still letting people know, even if you're working online, that like this is who I work with, and this is who I serve. So I would say posters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And are you using any AI in your business? I have to ask it. It's
Oh,
2025. If yes,
unfortunately.
yeah,
I have a really I have a lot of concerns about AI, and
get
especially how I
scared too.
see yeah, I see especially how I see yoga teachers using it. You know, when I see people saying going into AI and say, "Hey, write me my class plan for my next class," that hurts my heart a little. Or, you know, here, write me this yoga nidra script, or I need a guided meditation. AI, write it for me. That really kind of hurts me because I think that those are skills we need to have. However, I'm also a podcaster and I'm a solo show over here, much like you. And so by the time I record the episode, edit the episode, and make the graphics for the episode, now my mind is like, beep, there's nothing, there's no words. I can't write a blog post about that. I don't know what to do with show notes. And so I use AI for that through my scheduling or through my editing software. You know, now that being said, it is writing those things on my transcript. So it is using my words and my ideas and my guests' words and their ideas in the transcript. Then I have to take that and make it sound like it's me. So I don't just take exactly what they say because they use all these strange terms that I would never use, you know, or they make it too formal or something. And so I'll take that and I'll cut and paste it into my website, and then I'll go through and be like change the words to like words I would use, take out things like all the extra emojis and the dashes, and you know, so I will go through and make it my own. But I like to think of AI as like they're creating the outline for me, because at that point my brain is so tired I can't even come up with an outline. Like I'm just like, here's an episode, listen to it, that's all I got, you know. And so I use it for that, and then sometimes I'll use it for a title or a subject. If I'm trying to come up with like an email newsletter, for example, I'll say give me 5 clickable subjects for a newsletter on blah blah blah. And I never take exactly, again, it's never exactly what they have. It's usually like the first half of this one with the middle of this one and the last of this one, and then I change a word, but it does at least get the creative juices going. Whereas otherwise I feel like sometimes I'm just staring at a blinking cursor going, I have 30 minutes to get this email out and I don't even have a title for it, you know. So I use it for that, but again, I always tweak it, edit it, you know, make it my own. What else do I use AI for? So show notes. Oh, I have an on-demand video library, and I have a bunch of videos on there that, again, by the time I was uploading them all, I couldn't write descriptions. I was just like, oh my God, like this is, you know, too much. And so now what I just started using it for is as I send out my weekly email anyways to the people with the contents that are in my, it's like a membership, but sort of more like on demand as opposed to, there's no like community engagement or anything. But every week I will send out an email where I'll spotlight a video. And now what I'm doing is I'm using Chatty to help me create like a description of the video. So I'll say, you know, I'll cut and paste what I've already got and say, you know, give me a video description to match with this. And then again, of course, I have to edit it, right? But it does really, it just helps because I find sometimes I get writer's block and then I don't have much time and I'm sitting there and just staring at the screen going, now, if I had the budget for a full-time or part-time copywriter, I would just do that. Honestly, I would. I would rather have a copywriter and say, okay, here you go. Here's a transcript. Write me a blog post, you know. But that's not reality at this point. And I'm about to start, I think I'm starting a second podcast. So, you know, the workload's just getting increased. So I'm definitely going to be using it for that. I've also been using it for years without even calling it AI because none of us were talking it about AI as a spell check.
Yeah,
I
Grammarly.
have, yeah, Grammarly learning disability. So I'm neurospicy. So I have dysgraphia. And so spelling and things like that are not going to be my strong suit. And so I've had Grammarly installed for years without realizing, oh, that's AI, you know. So I've been using it as spell check for eons. But that's basically how I'm using it. And I think that's where it's going to stay. I have not gone as far as uploading any of my own writing into it so that it gets to know me better because that creeps me out. I get that it would
It'll
like mean
make it
less.
so much faster though.
It will, but also now my words are everywhere. Do you know what I
It's
mean? Like
getting
it's
to know
like
you anyway, though, from you using it and when you're editing
crowdsourcing and
everything and you're putting your
yeah.
transcripts in to like get it to edit them anyway. But I think the way you're using it is the way people should be using it. We're using it, my word at the moment is amplify. We're using it to
Yes.
amplify and be able to create all these things that is just inhumanly impossible effectively to be able to actually create all the little blurbs and all the things. And like
And
you
to
said, I'm the
streamline
same. I'm
things.
just like brain dead and using it as a first draft. It does a really good first draft for you,
Yeah.
and you still have to go through,
And then
edit
you
it.
have to go through and put your words because it uses some strange, it overstates everything. For everything's like way bigger and more exciting than it actually
Yeah,
is,
and
so
that
you got
is
to
this
really
and
got to,
not this.
yeah, you got to tone it down and put your own words in.
But
But
that's why if you train it on your voice, you don't have to do that bit quite as much.
well, you would think though that I'm using my editing software is getting my words. You would think that they would, although that is better than, I will say that when I used a script and I use their AI tool, those do sound more like me because they are going from my transcript than if I just go into Chatty and say, hey,
Yeah,
yeah.
Chat GPT
And
is like dramatic.
I used to think, like I'm really nervous about chat and AI in general taking over the world and not to get dystopian, but like, it's a very real possibility.
Oh, the
And
people
then
that are running these are saying the exact same
yeah.
thing.
And then I did that trend where it's like you put in a description and a photograph of you and you're like, make a Barbie version or
Oh,
an
yeah.
action figure version of me. Oh my God. Let me tell you that thing's far away from taking over the world because it cannot look at my photograph and replicate me. And then even when I would say, okay, close, just change this. I would say, just change this, leave everything else the same. And then it would regurgitate something. I was like, well, now there's 5 more things you need to change because that looks nothing like me. And it was, I posted it on
Yeah,
Instagram.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, it was just like none of these really look like me. And it's like a
Yeah.
little bit of this one and I would try that even like take this part from this. And it was just like, so I was like, okay, maybe I'm not, maybe yes, someday they will take over the world, but not yet because it can't even replicate my face.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I think there's like, I mean, there's always going to be some hype and drama around it that people are going to like hype these things up and they're learning fast and it's incredible some of the things they can do. I've also heard that we don't have the good version, which is the scarier part, but we won't go down that
mm.
rabbit hole but
The other
like,
thing I think is problematic about it now is I've heard a lot of people are using ChatGPT as like their friend or therapist or coach. That's really concerning to me, because first of
yeah,
all, it's only going to tell you what you want to hear, by the way.
yeah, it does like it does like tell like I've heard a lot of problems with it just reconfirming unhealthy
Yeah.
ideas because it's like, no,
It's
you're amazing.
trying to
You were
please
right
you.
in that situation. Like, yes, maybe you were over dramatic,
Yeah.
but yes, you were like, and on
Yeah.
and on. And then it just
Because
like,
chat wants to please you, so it's going to tell you what you want to hear. It's not going to
yeah,
say, "Yeah, actually, you were the idiot in that argument."
to be like that with you. But
But it's
yeah,
not a
it's
person.
not.
Like how does it know?
It's
There's no nuance there,
it's a pattern recognition software effectively,
Yeah.
like in a very rough outcome. Well, we don't really know how it works, but
I mean,
it's
I
good at
think
reading pattern.
it's got its place, but I think unfortunately people are using it in ways that are less than ethical and also just, they're shortcutting. So like, using it to create all your sequences for your classes.
Mm.
I spent a lot of years, blood, sweat, and tears learning how to sequence. Like I'm talking hours in front of a screen, writing out a sequence, trying it with my body, moving things around. There is value in learning to do these things yourself before you use the tool to do it for you. So if you had like 20 awesome sequences and you put them into chat and said, take these as a base and make me a new sequence, I still don't love it, but it's better than just make me a yoga sequence. So I think we have to be careful in how much we're giving it and how much power. Like I don't need a ChatGPT life coach. I don't need them to create my sequences for me. I do need them to check my spelling.
Yeah. I could go on about AI for a while, but I can hear the baby screaming. So I have
It's time to get up.
one final question. If there's just like one final thing from this conversation that you wish yoga teachers understood, either about being a teacher or an entrepreneur, what would you like to leave everyone with?
Don't be so quick to market your business that you don't sit with the techniques that you hear from people. Sit with them. How does it feel in your body? Is what someone asking you to do, does it feel a little ick? Then it's not for you. Find a different way. Maybe I call it feminine. You could call it heart centered. You could call it just your own way, marching to the beat of your own drum, whatever it is. But like, there's so much of us out there that don't feel like we have the confidence to market well, so that we just listen to all the noise coming in. And that's when, even in our wellness circles, we get these really gross, slimy marketing techniques coming in. Whereas I think if we just sat with it a little bit and was like, okay, so my goal is I want more people on my email list. How can I do that in a not gross way?
Yeah, that's a good way to ending. And just to add on to that, I think it's also important to sit with them because it's very easy to get swept up in someone's way of doing things and they'll promise that
Yeah.
this is the path. And yes, that might work for them. It might work for some people that follow their path exactly, but there's going to be some people that will follow that path exactly and it doesn't work for because it just isn't quite working to your strengths or you feel a bit gross about it and that's coming through in some way.
In my opinion, if anyone says they have the way, run.
Mm.
They're lying. There is no one way. There's a multitude of paths through the forest.
Yep. Yes, to that on all of the levels. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nick. It has been a pleasure as always, and I look forward to whatever our next conversation will be. Probably around niching, because we keep saying we'll do that one.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for,
And
yeah,
then
thanks for having me back. And as always, it's great to chat with
you have a wonderful rest of your day.
you. All right.